This successful surgeon had the perfect life, a loving wife, 2 kids, and a career everyone respected. But everything changes the moment he lays eyes on one woman, and the attraction is instant.
Hey, William, huh?
When they start their affair, they didn't imagine that they'll run into a major problem. The woman is his son's girlfriend, and he's about to propose to her.
Where's my husband? Why are you lurking up there? Come say hi. Anna, this is William.
Hello, William.
Hello, Anna.
Still, they can't stop themselves, as they continue to dive into a secret affair that slowly destroys everything he once loved. And by the time the truth finally comes out, the consequences are far worse than any of them could bear. As the film opens, we are introduced to William, who is a highly skilled pediatric surgeon, widely respected for successfully separating conjoined twins. Outside the operating room, his life seems just as perfect. He's married to Ingrid, a beautiful and devoted wife, and together they have 2 children, Jay, their confident son, and Sally, their spirited, tomboyish daughter. Their middle-class life appears calm and fulfilling, though there's one constant annoyance: Ingrid's father, who is a politician known for hosting endless cocktail parties. One evening, during one of these crowded gatherings, everything changed. While the people talk and mingle, William notices a woman across the room who immediately captures his attention. Then, moments later, they run into each other by the bar, and she introduces herself as Anna. There was an instant, unspoken connection between them, as their intense eye contact says more than words ever could. Still intrigued at the woman in front of him, William casually offers her some olives he had taken for himself, and this subtly deepens the moment. But with so many people around, Anna hesitates a little before walking away, leaving William standing there, lost in thought. Meanwhile, Anna can't seem to take her eyes off William, as she continues to watch him from afar until he eventually leaves with his wife. But what William doesn't realize is that Anna is already connected to his life in a way he never expected. She's Jay's girlfriend. And by the next day, Jay excitedly brings Anna home to meet his parents. When they meet, William and Anna act like strangers, as the 2 play it calmly and hide their previous encounter. But beneath the surface, the tension is undeniable, and later on, while William is doing the dishes in the kitchen, Anna approaches him and she gives his hand the faintest of touches with her finger. It's a brief moment, but it feels like something much deeper, like a silent conversation neither of them can ignore. That night, Ingrid invites William to work out together, something he would normally never refuse. But this time, he hesitates as he claims that he's too tired, just as we see that something has already begun to change in him. Then days later, while William tries to call his son, Anna sees his number and instead of answering, she copies it and calls him on her phone instead. Immediately the call ends. William quickly saves the number with the letter A. Then, the next day while at work, he receives a call from Anna. She doesn't say much. Instead, she just gives him a time and an address before hanging up. From that moment, his focus begins to slip, and even in the middle of his demanding job, his thoughts are elsewhere. Although he sits down to have a rethink about everything, his mind is already locked in, and as soon as his surgery is done, he rushes over to the address. By the time they finally see each other again, they simply stare at each other and then, without a word, they allow their emotions to speak for them as they immediately engage in an intense, intimate moment together. When they are done, William quietly gets up and gets dressed, then leaves. However, we see that something has already changed, and from that point on, William's structured and predictable life begins to unravel. For him, what once felt normal now seems dull and empty because of Anna. In his mind, her presence brings a new kind of excitement, a spark he didn't even realize was missing, and he soon begins to look forward to every message from her. But what comes was a message from Jay to meet at a bar, because he wants to talk with him. William is a little worried since he has no idea what Jay wants to talk about, and he waits anxiously. However, when he arrives, Jay simply tells him that he is worried about how his mother feels about his relationship with Anna. William reassures him that if he is happy, then his parents are happy too. But this doesn't stop him from his dangerous affair with Anna as he continues to sink further into the secret connection, and Anna is fully aware of the hold she has on him. And after yet another intense affair, she tells him that she is setting strict boundaries just to keep things from going out of control between them. She makes it clear that if they are ever broken, she will walk away without hesitation, and that if he keeps to them, she'll totally submits to him when they meet. And from that moment on, William finds himself completely under her influence. One day, while attending an event with his father-in-law, William suddenly receives a message from Anna for a meetup. And without thinking twice, he abandons the important gathering and rushes to her apartment. But just as he's about to reach her door, another message arrives to cancel their meeting. Confused and unsettled by the last-minute change, William still knocks, only for the door to be opened by Anna's friend, Peggy. This catches him off guard, as he awkwardly tries to explain that he is Anna's friend. Luckily, Anna shows up just in time, and quickly steps in to smooth things over. That is when she tells William that he failed to keep to the plan before shutting the door against him. In the following days, Anna becomes more distant and controlled, and this only makes William's obsession grow stronger. He starts to struggle to focus on his daily life, and Ingrid begins to notice the change. She soon starts to grow suspicious, as she senses that something isn't right. However, whenever she asks him, William simply brushes it off, as he insists that his work is taking a toll on him. And despite her doubts, he finds himself already too deeply entangled to turn back. For the next few days, William does nothing but wait, in the hope that Anna will call. And despite his anxiety about Jay finding out, the two meet once again as Anna reassures him that Jay has already given her permission to keep parts of their relationship private. Still, William's curiosity continues to grow as he wants to know everything about her. But Anna insists that sometimes silence can speak louder than words. Due to his persistence, Anna finally decides to open up about her past as she shares a painful story about her late brother. She reveals that when she was younger, he had loved her deeply, and they've been together several times until one day when she refused to give in and he took his own life. Anna tells William that although Jay knows about her brother, he doesn't know the truth behind what really happened. In the end, this confession only pulls William closer to her, and he even secretly tore out pages from her diary where Anna had written about their relationship, unable to resist knowing more. Then, everything takes another turn when William learns that Jay is planning a trip to Paris with Anna. William becomes totally unable to control himself, so he uses the excuse of attending a medical conference in Brussels to secretly travel to Paris instead. Then he proceeds to set himself up just across the street as he watches the hotel where Anna and Jay will be staying. But by night falls, William can't help himself anymore as he gives in to his urges and calls Anna's room. Shortly after, Anna tells Jay that she's stepping out for some fresh air, but in reality, we see that it's just an excuse to meet William. She eventually follows his directions and finds him waiting. But instead of relief, she is furious as she accuses him of breaking the rules she set. Even so, the tension between them is undeniable, and as neither can ignore the pull drawing them together, they once again give in right there in the corner of the street. Afterward, Anna warns him never to follow her again and tells him to leave the next day. Then in the bid to create distance, she decides to leave the hotel earlier than planned with Jay. And as William watches them leave with their luggage, a deep sense of emptiness fills his mind, and being consumed by longing, he decides to check into the same room they had stayed in. Once inside, his emotions overwhelm him as he clings to the space she occupied, holding on to anything that can remind him of her, as we see that his attachment has turned into something deeper, like an obsession. However, their relationship takes a turn when out of nowhere, William starts receiving messages from an unknown sender, warning him not to do anything reckless. This instantly unsettles him as he calls Anna, intending to tell her everything. But before he can speak, Anna makes a shocking demand as she tells him that she suspects Jay will be proposing to her soon, and that if Williams wants their relationship to continue, he must accept her marriage to Jay. Although the request hits him hard, William reluctantly agrees to the deal. Soon after, their engagement is announced at a family dinner, and as the others celebrate the news, William can barely hold himself together. He is overwhelmed by the atmosphere as he quietly retreats to the restroom only for Anna to follow him and calmly reminds him that his impulsive trip to Paris must never happen again. That if he ever crosses that line, she will end things with him without hesitation. And that if he truly wants to stay with her, he must learn to control himself. In all these, William is still disturbed by the mysterious message, so he shows it to Anna. She immediately suspects who might have sent it, and without wasting time, she heads to Peggy's house, since she's the only person who knows the full truth. However, Peggy denies doing such, and two eventually sit to try to piece things together. And that is when Jay suddenly arrives, forcing Anna to leave with him and act as if nothing is wrong. But internally, she begins to feel unsettled. Yet, she and William continue to spend time together as they are unwilling to let either go. Then during Anna's engagement party, as friends and family gather to congratulate the couple, something happens. Anna had invited her mother Elizabeth to the party, and this is the first time she'll be seeing Jay. And immediately she sets her eyes on him. She reacts very strangely, as if in shock before mumbling something about how strikingly Jay resembles Anna's late brother. However, Anna quickly tries to cover up and plays down the comments before taking her mother away. And as the party continues, Ingrid takes a moment to thank the guests, then proudly speaks about love and trust, emphasizing the honesty she believes defines her marriage with William. Then, she raises a toast to the couple, but in that very moment, William's emotions make him lose control, and he shatters the glass that he's holding. Just then, Anna looks at him, and Elizabeth notices everything. And by the time William heads to the restroom to tend to his injury, Elizabeth follows, and while she helps him clean the wound, she quietly warns William to be careful. But he could only stand there, unsure how to respond to Elizabeth's cryptic warning, as he is clearly shaken by her words. Just then, Anna enters and smoothly eases the tension before things can escalate. Yet, when she talks to Anna, she simply tells her not to say anything more. And Elizabeth, knowing her daughter all too well, chooses to obey her as she knows too well that Anna is driven by intense emotions, and the last thing she wants is for history to repeat itself. Later that night, when sleep refuses to come, William and Anna find themselves outside together. And despite the risk of being caught by someone, they spend intimate time together. Just days later, while preparing for the wedding, Anna goes to choose her bridesmaids' dresses with Sally, Jay's sister, who shares troubling news with her. That is when we learn that it is actually Sally that's been sending the anonymous warning message to William. She had discovered a torn piece of paper from Anna's notebook hidden in her father's garment bag. And although the note didn't mention names, it described a secret meeting, enough to make Sally suspect that her father was involved with another woman. Fortunately for Anna, she is relieved that Sally doesn't know who is really involved, and she even manages to talk her way out of the situation, convincing Sally to let go of her doubts. With that obstacle cleared, Anna and William grow even closer, and they begin spending more time together without fear, and Anna even gives him a key to her apartment. But while they feel secure, Jay begins to sense that something isn't right as he starts sensing some doubts in his mind. Then, at his bachelor party, things take a strange turn. While Jay talks with his father, he casually says that sometimes silence can be a form of love. The words were all too familiar, as Jay instantly recalls Anna saying something almost identical. And from that moment, everything begins to connect, and without fully realizing it, Jay follows his instincts, as he follows William's path that night until he arrives at Peggy's apartment. He is still in disbelief when he decides to call his mom to ask if she's with William. And by the time Ingrid confirms that he wasn't, Jay's fears were half confirmed. And by the time he reaches the apartment and opens the doors, he is shell-shocked to find Anna and William completely lost in each other. His mind can't seem to process the truth right in front of him as he becomes overwhelmed by the discovery, and he stumbles backward in disbelief, until he loses his balance over the railing and falls down the building. The sight suddenly jolts William back to reality as he rushes down only to find his son lying there lifeless. In that moment, everything collapses right in front of him as William breaks down, unable to comprehend how he had gotten to this point in life. Just then, he looks up to see Anna walking past, equally overcome with shock. And without a word, she walks away, with regret visible on her face, but far too late to change anything. Soon after, the truth begins to spread and William's reputation, once built on respect and success, crumbles overnight. Ingrid is left devastated, unable to believe or accept what has happened. She is overwhelmed with grief and anger, as she fully blames William's betrayal as what has cost them her only son. After saying her final goodbye to Jay, she makes the decision to separate from William, as she is no longer able to remain in a life built on betrayal. But what's even more shocking is that William doesn't seem to change. Even after losing his son, his thoughts remain consumed by Anna, and while the world around him turns against him, he continues searching for her, going as far as tracking down her friends just to find out where she is. Just as we see that his obsession hasn't faded and that it has only grown stronger. Meanwhile, Anna isolates herself at her mother's house as she remains quiet and emotionally withdrawn. However, we see that although everything around her has fallen apart, she isn't completely broken. But her mother tells her that there seems to be a pattern she can no longer ignore as she warns Anna that every man who has ever loved her has met a tragic fate, just like her brother. It's then that Anna learns that her mother had always known the truth about her son's feelings and actions, that his love for Anna had crossed a line that should never have been allowed. Yet she had failed to stop it early, and the consequences were devastating. Hearing this, Anna finally breaks down emotionally, and she blames her mother for not acting sooner, believing that her inaction led to her brother's death. The guilt with the pain, and all the weight of the past immediately becomes too much for her, as she decided to leave the house for good. She eventually visits the hotel where she and Jay had planned to spend their honeymoon, and in a moment of emptiness, she attempts to distract herself by meeting a man who seems to be interested in her, in the hopes of escaping the pain inside her. But just as she does, the man's wife appears, forcing Anna to walk away, once again alone, and facing the reality she cannot escape. But as she returns to her room, she stumbles on someone who appears too familiar. It was William, who has finally found her after tracing her whereabouts through her friends. The moment he sees her, it's as if everything else fades away. For him, this is a chance to start over, to be with her again, free from everything he left behind. But things are never going to be the same, and while William feels a sense of release, Anna feels the opposite. She is weighed down by guilt, and in that moment, she realizes the damage they've done, not just to themselves, but to everyone around them. She tells him that she regrets her actions, and she believes that meeting William was a mistake from the very beginning. The love she once felt now seems distant, and almost non-existent. In the end, she makes her choice as she decides to walk away from William and leaves her past behind with a determination to start a new life, no matter how painful it may be. For William, he remains trapped and unable to move on. Then, he decides to buy the apartment where they once spent time together. And inside one of the rooms, he finds their old diary, a reminder of everything they shared and everything he lost. Although it is now too late, he finally comes to the painful realization that the only way to avoid such destruction is to control one's desires and stay away from the kind of love that leads only to ruin. And that's the story of the movie, Obsession. If you enjoyed this recap, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling us what you think about the movie. Until next time, stay safe.